Hey everybody. Well, I wanted to do a recap on the anabolic diet that I've been doing over the past 15 weeks. I finally wrapped it up last week, kind of on Wednesday, just before the holiday hit. So the diet I did was Dr. Mauro DiPasquale's what he called the anabolic diet. The theory or the belief behind it was a higher saturated fat diet was more beneficial for the natural lifter to have what they call kind of like steroid like type gains from this type of diet. So I wanted to give it a shot. I did it a couple years ago, just the cut phase, and I got really good results with it. So this time I wanted to run through all three phases. So I didn't do any cardio. I did strictly nutrition and working out, and just kind of seeing how my body would respond. I typically, I've tried. This is a what they call a cyclical type keto diet. So I tried keto years ago, and I think I pretty much screwed that whole process up. It wasn't a very good experience. It wasn't a good result, and I think for me, when I was basically going from a more of a high carb diet, high protein diet, to a high fat diet, I tried to keep the calories the same, and I think that was a huge mistake. I was pretty much miserable all the time, and I wasn't able to really kind of to get into it the way that I'd want to. And I ran into a little bit of that with this too, and I'll explain that here in a little bit. Kind of how I felt in the beginning. So with the diet, there's three phases. They recommend starting with a maintenance phase, then going to a bulk phase, and then to a cut phase. Your macros stay the same. Monday through Friday, it's more high fat, and then in the weekends, you're carb loading. Okay. And I'll explain a little bit more detail on that too, because there's a little bit of a risk of what they maybe suggest, like an insulin resistant. I don't think I experienced that, but getting further into it, I think my body responded better. And again, I'll go over that a little bit more too in just a little bit as far as that goes. So I did the diet for 15 weeks. I started with the maintenance phase. They recommend doing that for 4 weeks, which I did. And then I went into a bulk phase. I did that for 4 weeks. And I've basically been in the cut phase now for 7 weeks. That was a little bit more rockier this time, and I'm not sure why, but I'll go through each phase and kind of what I experienced through each phase. And I think too, my body seems to do better if and just kind of to rewind things a little bit of my background. I was a natural competitive bodybuilder. Almost 20 years ago. So my body always seemed to respond better coming out of a cut phase into a bulk phase. I don't know if my body was just in such a depleted state at that point when I started eating and training hard again. I always had a really good anabolic response from that. Maybe again because of the insulin thing. So with this, I wanted to follow it as prescribed. They recommend the maintenance phase first, more so to get used to the added calories. So the maintenance phase to start, you're supposed to take your body weight and multiply that by, or add 18%, or multiply that by 18%, and that's basically your calories that you need, or multiply by 18, excuse me. And that's how many calories you should be taking in. So when I started the diet, and the other thing is too, I'd only been training back to training again for about 2 weeks. I'd been off since before October of last year, and picked up right around the first week in March, started training again. So I'd only had a couple weeks of training under my belt, and then so I was only eating maybe 2,000 to 2,200 calories a day. And according to the equation, I was supposed to be up to 3,600, and I think it was 70 calories a day. So I tried, but that was just a huge jump. I couldn't do it. I was miserable. And I was kind of feeling that way when I had mentioned earlier about doing the a keto diet. I was kind of feeling that way, and I was like, "Oh boy, I need to back this down." So I backed it down to around 3,100 to 3,200 calories, and that was a lot better. It was a lot more manageable. And as I got into it, what I found is on the weekends, probably about the third weekend, maybe the second weekend, I got a little loose with the carbs. And what I mean by that is I was eating a little bit more than 3,200 calories a day. But I feel like that set me up a little bit better going into the next week. So I was able to hit those macro goals and calorie goals by overeating a little bit on the weekends. What effect did that have on me? I really don't feel I had any negative effect. Everything really tracked really well. So I started the maintenance phase March 24th. I weighed 204 pounds, 204.4 pounds, and I was at about 17.8% body fat. I know when I had posted some videos before on my body fat percentage, if you look back at those, it's lower in those videos. It was basically an error on my part that I didn't catch until I started the bulk phase. So I kind of adjusted that. So that's probably closer. I was probably at about 17.8%. So I did that for 4 weeks. I actually lost just under 2 pounds. I went from 204.4 to 202.6, but I dropped about 2 points in body fat. So that's kind of crazy to me because of my calories had increased a lot more. I wasn't doing any cardio. Obviously, I was working out, but I did lose. I went from 17.8% to 15.4%. So I started in the bulk phase, and again, I kind of put a question out there where people wanted me to go, 210, 215, or 220. I had a 220 request, but 210 ended up winning out, and I'm kind of glad it did because 220 was really going to be a struggle for me to get to. I haven't weighed that much, and again, probably close to 20 years. So, and I didn't want to. I wanted to keep working on my body fat percentage. So at the start of the bulk phase, after I carb loaded, I was 204.4 again, right where I started. But I was just a couple ticks lower on body fat percentage. I was down to 15.1%. And then I ran that for 4 weeks. I was actually able to get to 210 pounds in 4 weeks. And my body fat percentage came down a little bit more too. I went from 15.1 to 14.7% body fat. Now, in the bulk phase, I was able to get up to that 3,700, which should have been my maintenance phase number, but it was actually the bulk phase. And I don't have my other notes right here in front of me, but the bulk phase, you pick your ideal weight and basically do the same calculation. So ideal weight, that's kind of based on what I did was I based it on the body fat percentage that I wanted to be at, which was 10%. My ideal weight at 10%, I think was like 204, 205. I don't remember right off the top of my head. So that's how I figured out that calculation to get the calories. Again, the macros stayed the same all the way through. So I did hit my goal at 210 right on the dot after 4 weeks. And again, my body fat percentage came down a couple points. And then I got into the cut phase. Now this is kind of weird. So the cut phase is, again, you basically take your calories from the bulk phase and take away 500 to 1,000 calories a day. So if I was at 3,600, I would drop it down to 3,100 or 2,600 or somewhere right in there. So I dropped it 500 at first just to see how my body would respond, and then I dropped it down probably another 200 after that. So probably I dropped it down about 700. And so I started the cut phase again after carb loading. I started the cut phase at 212 at 14.9%. And I ran that for 7 weeks. And I finished Wednesday at 209 and at 13.1% body fat. So over the 15 weeks, I basically gained 13.58 pounds of total muscle mass, and then I lost 9 pounds of total fat. So now the muscle mass gains, that seems to be a lot. I'm attributing a lot of that to probably to muscle memory, because again, I just started working out again, and anytime I've taken any time off and I started working out, I can put the weight back on pretty quickly. So, but I will say this is what was kind of weird for me in the cut phase. 7 weeks in, I just felt like my body was finally starting to adapt to the diet a little bit or better. So even though I was cutting calories, I felt like I was still making some pretty good gains. My goal was actually to get down to 10% body fat, but I was just riding the wave because everything was feeling good. So I just kind of stuck with what I was doing. I probably should have dropped the calories more, but again, I was feeling good. I was liking the way I was feeling. I felt like it was a sweet spot for the food that I was eating. But I did feel like it was time to put an end to it after 15 weeks. I had only planned to do it maybe 12 to 14. So, and so I just wanted to shut it down at that point. And I'll tell you what I'm going to be getting into next here in a little bit. But as far as the macro breakdown goes, so your Monday through Friday macros, your fats make up 60 to 65% of your nutrition, proteins 30 to 35, and less than, for me, they say either 10% carbs or less than 30 grams. Well, because of where I was at with my calories, I kept it right around 30 grams or just a little bit under. Probably way more under in most days throughout the week. And I was probably more at the 60-30 split, kind of in between the 60-65, 30-35 split for fats and protein. So I kind of kept it right in there. And then on the weekends, that's when you carb load, replenish those glycogen levels. So your fat is between 10 and 20% of your food intake. Protein's the same, 10 to 20%. And then your carbs are 60 to 80%. I loved, obviously, carbs. I love carbs. I love carb loading. So that was great. Getting through the week wasn't too bad with the high fat as far as cravings and stuff like that goes, because I could figure, okay, I'm getting through the week, and I can hold off till the weekend. So basically, a lot of the foods that I ate through the week, obviously a lot of eggs, a lot of red meat, cottage cheese, cheeses in general, a little bit of pork here and there. I would have some turkey sausage with my breakfast. I would do some protein shakes with like heavy whipping cream. Again, a lot of fat. And I would supplement that with a little bit of flaxseed and some milk thistle and some probiotics. And that seemed to keep everything kind of moving along pretty good. And then on the weekends, it was pancakes for breakfast. I really like pasta, so I would just do like spaghetti noodles with a little bit of butter, a little bit of garlic salt, and some lean beef, usually like 90-10 or something like that. And then I would have maybe a little bit of chicken, baked potatoes, sweet potatoes, those kind of things. I would try to keep the carbs fairly healthy. I seem to do better on the simpler carbs, especially post-workout. Before I started all this, I would pretty much have oatmeal and eggs for breakfast. And the oatmeal was great. That was a great complex carb that kind of got me through till lunchtime. But through this diet, I stayed primarily with simple carbs, except with the exception of an occasional sweet potato. So I don't know, I seem to do better on the simpler carbs. So the pros and cons of the diet. So for me, some of the pros were literally no inflammation. When I'm on a higher carb diet, sometimes I feel like I'm more inflamed. I can feel it in my joints a little bit more. So I virtually noticed zero inflammation, which was great. Obviously, an increase in muscle mass, a loss of body fat, and the continued strength gains all the way through. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that part of it. The cons for me, especially in the beginning, it was hard to consume all the fat. I don't know how to describe the feeling. It was just a weird feeling, just switching from one energy source to another. I don't know how to describe it. I was kind of thinking about this earlier, how I could put it into something relatable, at least maybe more so for the guys. Sorry, ladies, not trying to hold anybody out, but I'm sure you ladies know too. But I was trying to compare it to like fuel sources in a car. I would kind of maybe equate the keto side of it to more like diesel fuel. Feel like it was just more torque from that standpoint of being able to push heavier, but I didn't feel like I had the drive to get through a lot of the workouts. Like supersetting was a little bit more difficult, especially if I try to do it later in the week. Where with the carbs, I feel that's like more high octane, fuel, where more horsepower, where I can go through the workout. I have more gas to get through the workout. As strong, maybe, I don't know, but I definitely can get better pumps and can do more of a superset type workout, a more high volume type workout. So that'd probably be the best way I can maybe describe how I felt about being a little bit off. It'd be literally like putting diesel fuel in your gas tank. It's not going to run very well, and that's kind of how I felt. Like I just wasn't running at optimum. So that was for me just a little bit weird. And it just I felt like I lacked a little bit of endurance in that regard too. So would I do it again? Yes. And what I mean by that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get into kind of my old school bodybuilding cutting routine because I still do want to get to the 10%, but I'm going to go high protein, low carb, and lower fat. So I'm going to be eating a lot of the same foods. I'm just going to be eating more leaner meats now to get my protein up. I'll still have some protein shakes, but I'm going to cut out the heavy whipping cream. I'm going to bring my fat down. And I'll have a little bit more carbs through the day. Again, more simple carbs, probably with dinner. But I'll keep mostly everything else the same. So, again, I want to get down to that 10%. And then I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to get back on the bulk phase of the anabolic and run it out from there and see. Because theory is with that diet is once you get to 10%, you're supposed to be able to maintain that. No matter what phase you're in. Obviously, the cut phase you can get lower if you need to, but the goal is to get to 10% and then and maintain that through just the manipulation of your calories and your workouts. And the other thing is too, I probably will start doing a little bit more cardio through this next cut or current cut, or just to change the diet because I do feel like I'm lacking that right now. And I think that will also help speed up the process. Now we're sitting here talking about all this food. I'm getting hungry. And what time is it? Still got about another hour and a half yet before dinner. But so that's where I'm at with the anabolic diet. I do recommend anybody that's into, especially bodybuilding, whether you're natural or not, that's your decision. But if you're natural, I would certainly say give it a try. The only maybe caution I would say is if you're taking medications, you're going to want to talk to your doctor first and see what they say, because it is a high saturated fat diet. So obviously if you have cholesterol problems, this may not be the diet for you, or if you're on blood pressure medicine or anything like that. So, but consult your doctor first if you do have any of those issues. If not, I would recommend giving it a try. Muscle and Strength has a great article on this, and it kind of breaks everything down for you. And that's where I went to get all the macros and how the diet works, and got so there's a little bit of menu in there just to give you some ideas of foods to eat too. So, but it was a really good resource for many of the other things that I looked at. So you can just Google that Muscle and Strength anabolic diet, and it'll come right up. But yeah, I would recommend anybody giving it a try. Like I said, if I were to do it again, I would probably just do the cut and bulk phase. But because I'm switching up cut phases, nutrition wise, I'll probably go right back into the bulk phase again once I'm done. Again, the goal is to get down to 10% and then go from there and just kind of see where it takes me. So I'll definitely be posting more stuff coming in the future, more on Instagram and Facebook as far as how this diet's doing. I'll still do the weekly check-ins and all that. When I'm done with this, I'll post more pics, kind of where I left off with the bulk phase, and then kind of where I finish in the cut phase. So seeing how things transform. Changes are coming. I'm not real happy, but we're our own worst critics. So I feel like I got a lot of work to do, but only being 15 weeks in nutrition, 17 weeks of training, and being 54 years old, I really can't complain. But I want to see where I'm at in another 6 months or so. So you guys are along for the journey. Always look forward to any feedback or any suggestions you guys have. If you've done this diet, would love to hear your feedback, your comments, what your results were on it. Or if you have any questions for me about the diet, I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody as well. So hope everybody has a great rest of the week, and we'll talk soon.